What is up, guys? Welcome back to Wild Rift University. I'm Thing1, and today we have a awesome video. I am going to be teaching you guys about the importance of build paths and a couple different roles, and just using a couple different champions as examples. Now, we're not going to really get into every single champion in every single scenario. What the goal of this is to try and give you basically a basic understanding of understanding builds, understanding build paths, and what to do in different situations. I'm going to try and do, I don't want the video to be too long, but I'm going to try and do Evelyn, or kind of like an assassin type jungler, and then I'm going to do like a tank jungler, and then I'm going to do like a bruiser jungler, and we'll see how long the video goes from there, and then maybe I'll do some other things. But just to do jungle first, because jungle is where I am the most familiar. If you've never watched my videos before, welcome to the jungle. I'm Thing1. I'm currently a Grandmaster player. I'm over 40 points, and I'm also Vanquisher 1 as well. I've been ranked top 50 on about 6 champions and things like that. And I play all roles as well. So I'm going to use Evelyn. So now, one thing to note, there are certain champions that have very specific build paths that are really important for that champion to do, kind of like no matter what. So you kind of never deviate from it. So for example, these items right here: Lich Bane, Infinity Orb, Randuin's Void Staff. Those 4 items right there are kind of pivotal for Evelyn. Now, some people will say do Infinity Orb first, or some people will say Death Cap first. I do agree that Death Cap is better, or second, I'm sorry, not first, second. However, I think there are situations to where Infinity Orb can be better, and I'll kind of explain that. Now, Lich Bane I feel like always has to be first for her. But let's kind of just go into the first breakdown. So let's say you're playing a AP Assassin, because a lot of AP Assassins have the same items. Not 100%, but think with me for a second, okay? So when you're building an item, obviously everybody starts off with just a little book, okay? Next thing that I'm going to kind of think of after I start building, when I go back, okay, am I going to get Wisp or am I going to get Sheen? Okay. Personally, a lot of times I'm going to get Sheen. Okay. Because I like the extra damage that I get with it. And then also, if you can, Spellblade using an ability causes the next attacks within 10 seconds to deal bonus physical damage equal to 100% of base attack damage, 1.5 cooldown reduction versus structures as well. So I like that, plus I like getting the extra ability haste. Now, if I feel like maybe, no, I really need the damage and the movement speed, then I'll go that way first. But I always do Lich Bane first. Now, how do I decide, and this is where it gets probably more debatable, how do I decide if I'm going to go Infinity Orb or if I'm going to go to Randuin's Death Cap? So the way I basically decide, if I start to get kills early in the game, like if I get 1 or 2 kills early in the game, then I'm probably going to start, or if I get really lucky and I get 3 kills early in the game, I'm going Death Cap first. Because I'm going to get more damage by going Death Cap than if I am by going Infinity Orb. Now, let's say I don't get some kills early and the game starts and I'm kind of 0-0, no assists, and nothing's really happening. Well, I'm not going to have as much gold. So because I'm not going to have as much gold, I'm actually going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go Infinity Orb. So because it's going to cost me 500 less gold, I'm going to be able to build a lot more of this and get more damage with the less gold than if I was going this way, because the items cost way less. Okay, that's kind of my thought process. Now, which item do I go first? Like now right here, I'm always going the pendant first, because I want that that magic penetration. If I can only afford to buy one, I'm getting that magic penetration first. Okay. Here's another thing that I see a lot of people kind of like do wrong. Like, so early, like I'll kind of start, I like to try and finish my first item or almost have my first item finished before I buy boots. It kind of depends on the champion. So like usually I'll get like my first item finished, because I can usually finish first item fairly quickly. I'll finish my first item, then buy boots after. I can typically finish my first item and get boots before dragon spawns personally. Depending on the champion, sometimes I will skip boots. And what I would do, like, so if I was really ahead, or I knew we couldn't win team fights unless I did a lot of damage, and I was the assassin, for example, and I finished Lich Bane, and it came between like, okay, I could buy boots right now, or I could buy a little bit more damage. If I knew me doing damage was pivotal for us winning the next team fight, probably at Dragon, because that's probably when that would happen, I would go book first over those boots. However, if I knew my damage was good enough, but me being able to position myself was more important, then I'm going to go boots of speed, okay? Understanding, you need to evaluate the game and think about the situation. What is the right thing? I think trying to have first item built at the same time. Now, let's say the game goes really, really bad, okay? And I don't even have my first item built. Well, if I don't even have my first item built, mobility then becomes more important to me, because I'm technically really weak. So I'm going to finish whatever I can of my first item, whatever tier 2 item I can, get my boots, and then hopefully have a little bit left over for a tier 3 item. That's kind of the way that my thought process would go in that situation, okay? But yeah, otherwise what the goal is, if I know in the team fight I need mobility, then I'm going to have first item boots. If I know in the team fight it's important for me to have damage, then I'm going to have first item and then one of these. Now let's say I have the boots, I did the first item, and now I've completed the second part of my item. How am I deciding what to do next? I have this item right here. This item can be built into almost everything. Almost every single ability that exists, this item can be built into. Always, like if I have multiple kills, I'm going straight to death cap, and depending on how much gold I have, depends which one I buy first. I usually try to not back until I can get the large rod first, but if I have to back, then, you know, obviously I'm going to get the wand. But my goal is always to land on the rod. So if it's a team, let's pause real quick. So the only way I won't probably finish my Lich Bane first, or what I'll do if I'm versing a team with a lot of healing, I may go into Orb early before I completely finish my first item. Because that first team fight, having anti-heal early, it makes such a big difference in those team fights, okay? So think about this. What item helps my team win the fight? Typical, I'm finishing Lich Bane first, and then if I feel like I need more speed, I'm going boots. If I feel like damage is more important, I'm going probably the book. If I feel like healing or anti-heal is more important, what I'm probably doing, if I don't have enough gold to finish my first item and buy the Oblivion Orb, then what I'm doing is probably finishing as much of the first item as I can, getting Oblivion Orb, and trying to get boots to utilize the best of both worlds. All right? But that's just another situation for you to kind of think of. So if I'm fed, I'm going Death Cap, then into Infinity Orb. If I'm not fed, then, you know, I'm trying to start Infinity Orb, you know, have a pair of boots. Then I personally will sit on tier 1 boots, usually until I finish like my 3rd tier item, unless what I'm realizing is I'm not winning team fights because I'm not fast enough. Okay, and now here's a really important thing people don't realize with boots. This is so important. So let's talk about boots, okay? boots are such a huge deal. So for me, when I play Evelyn, and a lot of people will say no to this, if you're, I've been top 50 ranked with Evelyn. I'm pretty good at her. Honestly, the only reason I'm probably not ranked higher with Evelyn is because I don't like one-tricking her. But since this game's come out, I've had about like a 6 KDA, 7 KDA with Evelyn. I'm a really, really good Evelyn. I just don't enjoy playing her because I think she's really easy and boring. There's only really 2 routes I go with Evelyn. I either go these boots right here, Fervor, or Lucidity, okay? And how do I decide? So Evelyn got one of the biggest nerfs that hurt her a couple patches ago. She got a movement speed boost. Having this increased movement speed and everything, it really helps. It really makes a difference, having this increased movement speed with getting around the map. Now, if I feel like movement speed isn't the thing that I need in order to help me like stay on fights, because a lot of times Evelyn's so easy to get away from because she's so slow, but with these boots she's harder to get away from. Now, if movement speed isn't the thing and I'm keeping up with people and being able to kill people fast enough, then I go boots, and I'm like, you know what, I need to have my ult up more often. That's what's stopping me from getting fed. Then I'll go boots of Lucidity. So you have to think about it in that retrospect. Now, the other thing that I would do, let's say if I did build the Oblivion Orb with her because they had a team that had a lot of healing, I would stop at that. I would just build the Oblivion Orb and I would stop at that. Because all I really want it for is the anti-heal, okay? Now, the only way I would probably finish building Oblivion Orb is if I really wanted to get some of the magic pen, but realistically by this time I have probably this item, I have the Oblivion Orb, I probably have Infinity Orb, I probably have Death Cap, and it's like, okay, I could either finish the Green Book, Morellonomicons, or I could start working on Void Staff. I would much rather have Void Staff, and I'd much rather have the Void Gem in general. So I would probably finish Void Staff and then last finish Morellonomicon. Evelyn's build, and like there's a lot of assassins who their build really can't be changed up too much. There's small changes you can do to it. Like the small changes you can do are basically like in the enchantments. You can do Stasis. You can do Protobelt. You could technically do Gargoyle. It's not really the greatest on her. You could technically do Enchant. Quicksilver on her as well. Locket's kind of a joke. Glorious Enchant really isn't that viable for her either. Some small changes you can make, which I don't really agree with. I mean, you could do Luden's Echo, but I don't think this is very viable. It's such a rare situation, but this right here, core build, is just so much better. There's really no reason to pull away from it for the most part as well, because this build, it just works so well on Evelyn overall. So that's kind of like giving you an idea. Now, if I'm facing a tanky team comp and let's say they don't have a lot of healing, okay, then what I'm kind of doing, I got my first 3 core items. I'm immediately focusing, trying to get as much pen as possible. So I'm going to Infinity Orb. If it's a really tanky team who's building a lot of magic resist, and I know they're going to build a lot of magic resist, I'm going first item, then I'm going straight into Infinity Orb. Then after Infinity Orb, what I'm probably going to do is go into like the Prophet's Pendant, and then I'm going to try and maybe build the Void Load Purple Gemstone, and then, like I said, I'm going to I'll have my Infinity Orb completed. I'll probably finish my Death Cap as well, and then I'll finish my last 2 items. That way I'm doing as much magic pen, and you don't have to exactly do it like that. Like, as long as you're finishing the Lich Bane, the Infinity Orb, into Death Cap, and then heading straight towards, the first Void Crystal, you can do it that way if you want. But if you really feel like you need a lot of pen early, because like maybe they just really stacked, you can get those Prophet's Pendants early, and then, get that Void gem as well. So just kind of ways to think about it. You obviously will have to assess the situation as far as what you should do. But build pathing is such an important aspect of the game, because if your enemy is ahead, or you're ahead, or if you're even, or depending on what champs they have that are ahead, or what champs you have that are ahead, it should impact the way that you react to the game. You don't want to ever get into a spot where you're just like, oh, Lich Bane, Infinity Orb, Randuin's, Void Staff, Morellonomicon. You don't want to get into that mindset, because by getting that mindset, you could be limiting yourself. Imagine having that mindset right here, and you're going against a team with tons of healing. You're going against a Darius. You're going against a Soraka. You're going against a champion that uses lots of healing like Draven. You're going against, let me think, what's a mid laner that does lots of healing? I can't think of one right now, but I'm sure you guys can all think of a mid laner that heals a lot. Like maybe a Yasuo or something like that. They do pretty good healing as well. You're going against champions like that. If you don't have anti-heal early, well, how are you guys going to win team fights? Because they're just going to heal in team fights. So that's why it's really important to think about the way that you build. Okay, especially like if you're an assassin. Assassin's always such interesting, because assassins are really focused on building like one way, but sometimes they have to change as well, and it doesn't always work the same way. So let's talk about, we probably won't have time to do all of them, just because this is taking a little bit longer just to go through the situations. So we did an assassin. Let's talk about something like this, like a Lee Sin, okay? So Lee Sin's such a great champ because he has so much diversity in what he can do. He can be basically, he's not really an assassin, but you can play him like an assassin. You can play him like a bruiser. He's not a great tank, but you can play him like a tank if you have to. So I have several builds that I like for Lee Sin. Okay. If I feel like I'm going to get ahead and I'm going to snowball the game, I really like this build. I love going Yumi's into Trinity Force. If I'm like super fed, a lot of times I'll go into Guardian Angel. Now, some people say, well, why would you go into Guardian Angel and not just go straight into Death Dance? Well, my thought process of going into Guardian Angel versus straight into Death Dance, if I have like 5 kills or 6 kills early, I'm now worth a lot of gold. So I would rather stop myself from dying, giving the enemy team gold, trusting that I'm so far ahead that still the extra damage and armor here is going to help me stay ahead as well, and I'm not giving away like a shutdown. If I am so far ahead that it's like there's just no way they're going to kill me unless I just do something completely stupid, then I might go into Death Dance, then into like Steric's Gauge, and then finish with GA. But sometimes I like to be a little bit more cautious as well. And then even like if I'm super far ahead, sometimes I may even pick like Glutinous Greaves just for the extra healing. Even though it's not super great on Lee Sin, if I'm far enough ahead, I'm just going to go full attack mode on Lee Sin. But realistically, long term in the game, it's not a smart thing. So let's talk about this first item, Yumi. So if I decide a game where I have to be aggressive, I'm going to get fed, I'm going to go Yumi's. I usually always obviously start the game out with Longsword. So what happens that makes me decide to go Yumi's versus other build paths that I like to do, for example, which would be like Black Cleaver, okay? Or Divine Sunderer. So after I pick Longsword, the first thing I'm going and starting to think, based on how the game goes, if I get ahead and if they have a team that I feel like I can snowball on, then yes, I'm going Yumi's. Now, if I feel like, hey, I'm not going to get ahead, it doesn't look like I'm going to be super strong this game, then my mindset switches to, okay, am I going to need to shred armor this game to help my team win? Or am I still going to have to be a pretty big fighter because they have tons of tanks? And am I going to need anti-health? And that will help me decide which path I'm going to go. Because like I said, Lee Sin's so diverse in the way that he can go in. So that's kind of my mindset as well. If I'm feeling okay, you know what, I need to be tanky, I need ability haste, I need to do damage. They're not crazy tanky, but they have a bunch of bruisers. I'm probably going to go Black Cleaver. If they have a Mundo, a Nautilus, maybe a semi-tanky mid, let's see, who would be a semi-tanky? You could say Echo or Gragas or Diana, champions that could potentially build some health, and then, they have a semi-tanky jungler a Riven or just some jungler that builds some health. Then I'm probably going to go Divine Sunderer because I realize I'm going to need some % health damage because they're going to have a lot of health. They got tons of bruisers or tons of tanks, or maybe they have 2 tanks, 2 bruisers, and then just the 1 ADC type of life. And obviously a mid lane isn't a bruiser, but you get what I'm saying. It's a mid laner that's going to be AP, but also kind of tanky. So I would be thinking Divine Sunderer. And then if it's just going to be not really tons of tanks, but they're going to be stacking armor, but they're not going to have tons of health, then Black Cleaver. Typically the way I usually go is either going to be, if I'm going Yumi's, then I'm expecting myself to be really ahead. So then I'm going to go into Trinity Force next. And then how I decide what I'm going to build from there, it kind of depends. Do I feel hey, I need a little bit more health because these fights look like I'm getting close to dying? Then I'm going to build Phage. Plus you also have to look at it. Attacks grant 20 movement speed and kills grant 60 movement speed for 2 seconds. If I feel hey, I need a little bit more speed as I go, as I'm attacking, Phage is probably going to be a way that I'm going to go. If I feel I need a little bit more damage, well, then I'm going to go Sheen. If I feel my attacks aren't getting off, it's almost never this one. It's usually either Phage or Sheen. It all depends. If I feel I need to be tankier, then I'm going to go Phage. If I feel no, I just need the extra damage, then I'm probably going to go Sheen on Lee Sin as well. And then I kind of, you're using that same concept when you're looking at this. Most of the time, hey, yeah, I'd rather probably go Phage than go the stinking the freaking gem, because having to basically the same amount of health, but then I'm also getting damage as well. So it's kind of just the way that I personally look at it. So from there also, boots, sometimes actually with Lee Sin, because one of the strongest things about Lee Sin is his mobility. I actually will build boots on Lee Sin a little bit early, because being able to get around the map so fast when you have Yomis and then maybe you finish some boots early. Obviously, I'm sure most of you already know how to pick boots. Super far ahead, I'm going to go Glutinous Greaves. But for the most part, I'm usually building Mercury Treads if they have a lot of CC, or I'm building plated steel caps. Now, I also will build Boots of Lucidity sometimes on Lee Sin. And the situation, if they have a lot of attack damage, obviously, plated steel caps. If they have a lot of CC, then Mercury Treads. I will build sometimes Boots of Lucidity on Lee Sin if I'm really far ahead. Or even sometimes if they have decent damage, I'll still build Boots of Lucidity because I try to evaluate, and sometimes you need to ask yourself, what is causing me to die? Or what is causing me not to get kills? If I realize I'm not getting kills because my abilities aren't up soon enough, and I'm dying because my abilities aren't up soon enough, I might go Boots of Lucidity. And I'll question myself, okay, is it the CC that's stopping me? Is it the attack damage that's stopping me? Or is it I had it, but I just was on a cooldown? And I'll try to identify it, and that's how I'll pick my boots a lot of times, even with Lee Sin. So ask yourself, but a lot of times I'll build that early, okay? And then once again, kind of like I was just saying before, you have to kind of weigh this out yourself. You have to adjust your playstyle. If I'm really fed and I'm worth a lot of shutdown gold, I'm probably going to go Guardian Angel because I don't want to give a shutdown gold to somebody else. And you have to understand when you're super fed, you dying impacts the game in a dramatic way. Like you look at it as like, oh, I only died one time. My teammate died 5 times. Yeah, but your teammate didn't give away 600 gold after he died. One time. And obviously, yeah, his multiple deaths equal more than 600 gold. But, you know, you have to think about it in that retrospect, okay? Now, let's say, you know, I can't go this build route because I'm falling really far behind. Well, then maybe, like I said, they're super tanky. I'm going to go this route, the Divine Sunderer, and let's say I need to go a tankier route. So what order you want to do this, it's kind of up to you. Like I said, to me, if they have, you know, tons of health, usually I like to go Divine Sunderer first. However, because of the gold difference, 3,450 versus 3,000, a lot of times I'll still do Black Cleaver first, even if they have a lot of health, because I also realize that by the time we fight the first time, most likely I can have Black Cleaver by the first dragon, but I probably can't have Divine Sunderer by the first dragon unless I'm really fed. So a lot of times I'll go Black Cleaver first, okay? So this is if, like, their team's super tanky, you don't have a tank, and your team's going to fall really behind if they don't have a front line. So what my thought process is like, hey, I'm going to go Black Cleaver. I'm going to go into, like, Divine Sunderer because they're going to start to build health. After that, you know, then I'm probably going to go, like, Sterix Gauge. So now I'm, like, super beefy, okay? And then after that, I'm looking like I'm going to finish it off with a Guardian Angel and a Death's Dance. And then because they do so much damage, most likely they'll have some CZ. I'm going to have Mercury Treads just to give myself a little bit of magic resist. Like, that's the ideal build, so that way you get still as much damage as you can while being a tank. But sometimes you can't do that. And so what I'll have to do, like in a situation where I can't do that, where I'm building, but let's say they have like some magic resist, or I mean they have some magic damage. So, you know, I'm going Black Cleaver, Divine Sunderer, if they have a ton of tanks that have a lot of health. Then I'm probably going to go into something like Sterix Gauge, and then I'll probably build Spirit Visage, or what I like even better a lot of times, Force of Nature. I really like Force of Nature. In games where, like, I need to be super tanky but also quick, I like Force of Nature better than Spirit Visage. Or but games where like I'll do Spirit Visage if I'm a little bit ahead still but having to be tanky. But like if I just like straight up I need a tank, like I need to be a tank, I'd rather have Force of Nature. And then also like understanding build path. So okay, let's say you're doing like the more tanky build, like I was saying before. So you're doing Black Cleaver, and then, you know, you're going into, let's say, Divine Sunderer, or you're going straight into Sterix Gauge, okay? Whichever one you feel like is better for the situation. Sometimes what I'll do after, like, Black Cleaver, Sterix Gauge, if they have a lot of magic resist, you know, I'm going to just build the Spectre's Crawl. Just build the Spectre's Crawl, and that's it. Like, if they have a team with, like, 2 or 3 champions that are AP and their AP champions are fed, well, I'm going to make sure I build the Spectre's Crawl early. And I'm not going to finish that. I'm not going to finish it any other way. I'm just going to build the Spectre's Crawl, and then later on in the game, I'm either going to build it into Force of Nature, or I'm going to build it into Spirit Visage. But what I'll basically be doing is I'll have, like, Black Cleaver, I'll have maybe Sterix Gauge, or I'll have Divine Sunderer, depending on which one I feel is needed. Then I'll have Spectre's Crawl. I'll probably have like either Mercury Treads or Steel Cast based on what everyone's needed. And then I'm going into Guardian Angel because I still need to get some damage. And then what I'll do is I'll finish into Death Dance. Now, once again, if it's like super tanky, then what I'm doing basically is I'm doing Black Cleaver, maybe Death's Dance, Guardian Angel, Spirit Visage if I'm still kind of ahead, and Because the reason why I say that is because the Spirit Visage gives you healing. With Lee Sin's S2, it just gives you a little extra healing to make it a little bit more viable while you're attacking. But most of the time, I like Force of Nature just because it's really a better tanky in the long run, especially if you're diving and frontlining. So Force of Nature. Then I'm gonna go into like Guardian Angel and like Steric's Gauge. Or what I may have to do if it's like worst case scenario as far as being a tank, and I really hate it when this happens, I'll do like Black Cleaver. Then I'll build, if like I said, if it's heavy AP, then I'm building the Spectre's Crowl, which is that green hood, in case you're not aware, or like the light green hood, whatever you want to call it. I'll just build that. Then I'll go right into Steric's Gauge, which is this item right here. Okay. Then I will finish GA. And then I will do another full defense item. And it will kind of depend on what's needed. Like if the team needs some anti-heal, I'll do Thornmail. If they don't need anti-heal and they have a ton of crit, then I'm going to do Randuin's Omen as well. Okay, and like a quick thing to kind of like break some of those items down. Like I'm sure a lot of you guys know, if you're doing Thornmail, assess, is the reason why my team's losing is because they're healing too much? If the reason why your team's losing is because they're healing too much, then you want to go Bramble Vest first. If it's just because like, oh, you need to be able to tank more damage, then you want to build the Chain Vest first. Randuin's Omen, do the exact same thing. Am I dying because they have so much crit? If you're dying because they have so much crit, Warden's Mail, buy that first. Also, if they have a lot of attack speed, you may want to get the Warden's Mail first, because if you just do simple reading sometimes. If you just read these items, I don't know how I'm sure all of you guys read the items, but in case you don't, it lowers attack speed. So if you're being a frontline tank and they have like a Jax, a Tristana, or something, you can build the first Warden's Mail and you can lower their attack speed. Another thing for you to think of, and this is a little off topic, if you're a tank, okay, and you're versing tons of attack speed champions, Randuin's Omen and Frozen Heart together destroy attack speed champions. Those two items together destroy attack speed champions. So just a little side note for you to think about, okay? And then obviously if they're heavy AP, then, I'm building, I may not even build an armor item. I may just build like the Steric's Gauge. I'll still probably build the Guardian Angel just for a little bit of armor, but like my two tank items, and this is like heavy, it's probably going to be Spirit Visage and Force of Nature. Just kind of like breaking that down and understanding like different build paths in different situations. Like I said, it's kind of hard. You have to take the time to think about like, what does this team need to win? Because if you always get set just built on like, oh nope, this is the itemization and the build that I want to do, you're going to lose a lot of games that you could have won if you just be willing to adapt your playstyle and adapt your build. It would make massive differences, okay? Especially with like a champion like Lee Sin. Lee Sin would need his own video because he, like I said, you can build him full damage, because you could even do higher damage than this, because you could technically drop Steric's Gauge and drop Guardian Angel. You could do, like, for example, if you're just going to, like, I'm full on going damage with this guy, you could do, like, for example, the Yumi's Ghost Blade into the Trinity Force. This would be like if you're just stupid ahead. Into the Trinity Force. Then you could build like you could also do a Mortal Reminder, a Death's Dance, a Night's Edge would be some items that you could really pick up. You could even do a Serpent's Fang. Really, you don't kind of want to do that, if they have some shielding and stuff like that. But you could do that. as well. If you were really just trying to like, no, I'm super far ahead, I want to just go full on damage. This is like a full damage build that's still pretty safe and gives you a little bit of survivability and tankability. But yeah, like Lee Sin, there's so many different build paths that you could do with him. It would probably take an hour just to go through and really break down. This video is really designed to just be a basic idea to kind of give you some different ideas of understanding how to build differently with a champion and do build paths in different situations as well. Let's do one more champion because I feel like this is getting kind of long. So we did an assassin jungle. We did like a bruiser jungle. We kind of did a tank jungle with him as well. Like I was going to do a tank jungler, but like I kind of talked about tank items a little bit with Lee Sin. So if you just kind of use like your common sense, you can kind of figure it out as well. I'm going to go into actually Morgana jungle real fast. Kind of like a mage jungle as well, which there aren't a ton of mage jungles. Like really you have, what do you have? You have Morgana, you have, I guess you could kind of say Echo, he's a mage, but he's not. You have Diana as well, yeah. So really, but Oriana's more like a caster mage than she is like a mage. So it's not the best, but I'm also really good at Morgana, so I can kind of break her down a lot for you. So I have several different build paths that I like to look at Morgana and different reasons. So Luden's Echo for me is always first. Always first Luden's Echo, and always Boots of Lucidity. Boots of Lucidity, I don't always build immediately. It's kind of like the same thing as I told you with everybody else. If I feel like I need the movement speed, I feel like I need the cooldown, then maybe I'll build a little sooner. But otherwise, I'm just building the first parts of Boots and then moving on. Now, if they have a really tanky team, okay, that has healing, this is how I build her, okay? And just to kind of give you guys an idea about my Morgana, I'm really, really good at Morgana. I have like over a 65, I think I have like a 66% win rate with her. I can't remember. It's like 65 something or 66, I can't remember. And I'm the number 13 ranked Morgana, but I'm also like technically the number 5 best win rate Morgana, NA. But yeah, I think I'm currently the number 13 Morgana. And I don't even one trick her. I still play lots of other champions. So if I one tricked her, I bet I could probably be number 1. But Luden's Echo first, Boots of Lucidity. Now, what I always do right here, Haunting Guys, and then into Orb. Okay? The reason why I always like to go those 2 items first, Haunting Guys, and then right into Orb, it's because it gives you so much wounds. It inflicts 40% grievous wounds, okay? That's huge for 3 seconds. And it reduces the effects of healing and regeneration effects, okay? So it stops them from being able to regenerate health or any types of healing that they do, okay? Now look at this one. Right, where the heck is it? When you go Haunting Guys as well, you're getting the health with the ability power. Building these 2 items first, it's going to give you maximum burn, okay? You want to try and finish this Leandri's Torment too, also as soon as power. So usually what I do is I get the first part of Mask, I'll get the Orb. Once I have that down, I go straight into Rylai's Crystal Scepter. And then as soon as I have that, I'm finishing Leandri's Torment. Because Torment dealing damage and power attacks deals 1% of enemies' max health as bonus magic over 3 seconds. When you have Leandri's Torment, Orb, and Rylai's Crystal Scepter, you're creating a maximum burn situation, okay? A maximum burn situation. Now, the reason why I don't finish Leandri's Torment first is because, or the reason why I go straight to Haunting Guys, into Orb, then into Rylai's Crystal Scepter, versus just 1, 2, 3 is because once you have the Rylai's Crystal Scepter finished, you're keeping them inside the pool long enough to like utilize the burn more efficiently. If you just went 1, 2, 3, they're in the pool for like a half a second. So you're not really getting to utilize the burn as efficiently as you could or the damage as efficiently as you could. But by going the Haunting Guise into the Orb, into the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, you're utilizing your early game damage as much as possible, okay? And this build right here, like I said, going 1, 2, 3, and then finish, destroys healing comps. Absolutely destroys healing comps. And once you finish the Leandries, healing comps are just absolutely done. Absolutely done. Then what I'll do basically after that, after I got that finished, I'm going straight into Death Cap. And then I'm going straight into Void Staff. Okay? That's kind of like the way. This right here, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my core build. Now, sometimes I'll build the armor pen side or the magic pen side of Void Staff a little bit sooner. And like I said, this build strategy, it works on other champions too. Like it actually works on Orianna a little bit. This build actually works on Orianna a little bit. I'm actually a really good Orianna as well. So you can utilize this. And you think about this. Now, if they have lots of magic resist, I'm probably going to build that. Because once again, if you have this, you finish Leandri's Torment, you have the Orb, you have Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and now you have the Magic Pen, you're going to shred their magic resist, set a burn on them that's burning them for more health and more damage, and they can't get out of it, and you're causing a basically a slow that holds them down for 30% for 1 second, that you can just keep recasting on them because they're walking through a gigantic pool that keeps basically resetting the slow. And then almost right as they basically get out of it, your cooldown's almost done, and the range on it so far, you can recast it. Now, let's say they have a team that doesn't have like any healing whatsoever, okay? They have like no healing. They're just basically all damage. And then what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to go like Luden's Echo, Leandri's Torment. I'm probably going to build Rift Maker after that. So that way I'm getting the extra Omnivamp. Or actually what I'd probably do is Luden's Echo. I'd probably just buy Haunting Guise, the little mask right here, the first mask. Then I would finish Rylai's Crystal Scepter. Then I would finish Rift Maker if I just need more sustain. And then from there, after I've completed all that, so let's say I finished Luden's Echo, I finished Rylai's Crystal Scepter, I finished Rift Maker, I finished Leandri's Torment, and they have no healing. Then basically what I'm probably, if they have lots of magic resist, then I'm probably going right into Void Staff. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's my 6 items. Okay, if they don't have a ton of magic resist and they kind of ignored it, then I'm probably going to Death Cap in order to just burst them for more damage as well. Now you see I have Archangel Staff. So one thing you'll notice if you're a Morgana player, she is mana hungry. So let's say you're in a game where you're realizing, and this can be risky, goading Archangel Staff. I usually only do it as support. There has been rare times that I'll do it when I'm playing her jungle. But if you're in a game where team fights are lasting a really long time and they're just constantly extended, and you're kind of in the place where you can't really make it without blue buff because like you're running out of mana so fast because the team fights are lasting so long, that might be a situation that I build Archangel Staff. Now, as far as what other items you build on her, you have to weigh out the situation, but just giving you a scenario where Archangel Staff, because one thing some players will run into, and not only that, like I do mana flow on Morgana as well as one of my runes. So like I'm running Luden's Echo with mana flow. So, but sometimes if you're playing Morgana correctly and utilizing with Randuin's Omen, because here's the thing, if you have Luden's Echo, Randuin, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, Leandri's Torment, and Morella Namicon, her S2, her pool, is a really good poke because it keeps them in it for a long time, and it does massive damage as a poke. Massive damage. So if you're playing her right, you would be utilizing this as a poke for her as well in team fights, okay? And if it's like I say, if this is really long, drawn-out team fights, and where if you don't have enough mana, you're constantly have to backing or just hoping that blue comes up right in time for team fights, Archangel Staff is a very situational item that can sometimes change the game out for you. And now, if you're going to do this, you do want to make sure that you have a team that can do some damage, because you will lose a ton of damage on Morgana if you go this item, because you're going to have to replace something on her that's really important. You're either going to replace Deathcap, Riftmaker, or Void Staff, and those are all massive damage boost items. Or maybe you're replacing the Green Book if they don't have a ton of healing. I still like to put the Green Book in there just because late game everybody's getting some healing anyways, and it just makes a huge difference. There's usually some types of healing that's going on late game. So think about that, guys. I'll have to probably do some more itemization builds. Like I said, this is such an interesting thing and such an interesting concept, and it's one that has infinite possibilities. That's one of the things I love about this game, just the infinite possibilities of team fights and different ways games can go, different builds and situations. So it makes this game so exciting. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next Wild Rift University video. Peace out.